Tomorrow. It is a small word. We use it as though it were a place already waiting for us. We schedule tomorrow. We promise tomorrow. We build our confidence around tomorrow. But tomorrow has never belonged to us. Questions had been presented to Prophet Muhammad. According to reports preserved by classical scholars of tafsir, he expected to provide the answers on the following day. But revelation did not arrive according to a human schedule. And within the surah that eventually answered those questions came an instruction that reaches far beyond that moment. Do not speak about what you will certainly do tomorrow without acknowledging the will of Allah. What if that instruction is not merely one teaching inside Surah Al-Kahf? What if it is a key that helps us see the connection between the cave, the gardens, the journey of Prophet Musa, and the barrier of Dhul-Qarnayn? What if Surah Al-Kahf repeatedly asks one question: who truly controls what happens next? Welcome to the Guided Hour, where every journey carries a story and every story carries guidance. Today, we journey through Surah Al-Kahf and discover what it means to live by the words, Inshallah. We should begin with an important distinction. It would be inaccurate to say that Surah Al-Kahf is only about the phrase, Inshallah. The surah speaks about revelation, faith, persecution, resurrection, wealth, knowledge, leadership, accountability, sincerity, and the final meeting with Allah. Yet there is a principle running through its major narratives. Human beings make decisions, but they do not own outcomes. They gather wealth, but they cannot make it permanent. They acquire knowledge, but they never possess the whole picture. They build systems, kingdoms, and barriers, but none of them can outlast the promise of Allah. Inshallah is the phrase that expresses this reality. It means, if Allah wills. But those words are not meant to decorate a sentence. They are meant to correct the heart of the person speaking. Classical accounts explain that some people of Makkah wanted to test the claim of Prophet Muhammad. They presented questions concerning remarkable events that were not widely known among the people around them. Among those questions were questions about a group of young believers who had disappeared long before, and about a powerful traveler known as Dhul-Qarnayn. The Prophet expected that revelation would provide the answer. He told the questioners that he would answer them the following day. The reports state that he did not add the words Inshallah. We must be careful here. The Quran itself does not describe every detail surrounding this conversation. Classical works of tafsir preserve the report and commonly describe a delay in revelation. Some reports specify a number of days. I cannot confirm the exact duration from the Quran or from a rigorously authenticated hadith, so we will not build the episode around a disputed number. What matters is directly established in the Quran. The answer did not arrive merely because a human being expected it tomorrow. Not even a prophet controls the timing of revelation. Prophet Muhammad did not invent the answer. He did not fill the silence with speculation. He did not create a story because people were waiting. He waited for what Allah would reveal. That silence itself became evidence of his truthfulness. A person fabricating revelation could produce words whenever pressure demanded them. But the messenger was a servant receiving revelation. He could communicate what was revealed. He could not command revelation to descend on his schedule. Then came the correction. Never speak about a future action with absolute certainty without connecting it to the will of Allah. And when you forget, remember your Lord. Then ask your Lord to guide you toward what is nearer to right guidance. Notice the movement. The Quran does not simply teach a phrase. It teaches remembrance after forgetfulness. It teaches humility after certainty. It teaches the pursuit of better guidance after a person recognizes the limits of their own judgment. The correction is not, stop making plans. The correction is, stop treating your plans as though they are divine decrees. Every person knows what it is like to speak confidently about a future that never arrived in the expected form. A child says, "Tomorrow I will finish everything." A student says, "This year will go exactly as I planned." A parent says, "My child will choose this path." A manager says, "The project will launch on this date." A founder says, "The business will reach this number." A family says, "We will be living in that house." A patient says, "By next month, this will be over." Sometimes the plan succeeds, sometimes it changes. Sometimes it fails. Sometimes what appears to be failure opens a path no one had imagined. The problem is not that human beings plan. Planning is part of responsibility. The problem begins when planning quietly becomes a claim of ownership over the future. The calendar may belong to you, tomorrow does not. The project may belong to you, its final outcome does not. Your effort belongs to your responsibility. Success belongs to the permission and wisdom of Allah. That is why Inshallah is not a weak phrase. It is a truthful phrase. It refuses to describe uncertainty as certainty. It recognizes that between intention and completion stand thousands of realities we cannot see: our health, the decisions of other people, the movement of markets, the condition of roads, the arrival of weather, the strength of memory, the stability of institutions, the beating of the heart, the continuation of life itself. We control none of these completely, yet Allah commands action within that uncertainty. That is the balance. You are not the owner of tomorrow, but you are responsible for what you intend and what you do today. The first great narrative of Surah Al-Kahf takes us to a group of young believers. The Quran does not give us their personal names. It does not provide the name of their city. It does not ask us to locate their cave with certainty. It does not turn their story into a historical treasure hunt. It directs our attention toward their faith. They were young people who believed in their Lord. Allah increased them in guidance. They stood with courage and declared that their Lord was the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Their society worshipped other beings besides Allah. The young believers refused. They understood that the dominant culture around them could command conformity, but it could not transform falsehood into truth. They separated themselves from their people and from the objects of worship their people had taken besides Allah. Then they entered a cave. Think about what a cave represents. It is not a palace. It is not a secure city. It is not a comfortable long-term plan. It is not the destination a young person normally imagines for the future. The cave was a place of retreat when the visible world had become hostile to their faith. They took the step they could take. They withdrew. They sought refuge. They asked their Lord for mercy and guidance in their affair. Then the future moved entirely beyond their control. They entered expecting refuge. Allah caused them to sleep for years beyond the length of an ordinary human life. They did not design that outcome. They did not understand it while it was happening. They could not measure the years. They did not know that generations would pass outside. They did not know that the political world they feared would disappear. They did not know that their act of faith would become a sign recited by people across the earth. Their responsibility was the faithful decision. The outcome belonged to Allah. This is Inshallah lived before it is spoken. A person moves toward what is right while admitting that they do not know where the path will finally lead. The young believers did not remain among falsehood and say, "We trust Allah, so we do not need to act." They acted, they left, they entered the cave, they made a request for mercy and guidance. Reliance was not passivity, it was action without the illusion of control. There are moments when a person knows the next faithful step, but does not know the full destination. A teenager may need to walk away from friends who make cruelty feel normal. A student may need to refuse dishonest help even when everyone else treats cheating as harmless. An employee may need to reject a corrupt instruction without knowing what the decision will cost. A family may need to leave an environment that is damaging their children. A person may need to end a harmful habit before knowing exactly what will replace it. The human heart wants a complete map before taking the first step. It says, "Show me where I will be 1 year from now. Show me what everyone will think. Show me whether I will succeed. Show me whether I will be safe. Then I will act." But life rarely provides that kind of certainty. The young believers were not shown every stage. They were shown enough to choose faithfulness over surrender. They entered a cave. Allah opened their story into centuries. When they awakened, they did not know how long they had remained. One suggested a day or part of a day. Then they returned the knowledge to their Lord. Allah knew best how long they had remained. Even their perception of time was limited. This is important. We often imagine that human beings lose control only when a great disaster occurs. But Surah Al-Kahf shows that our limitations are present even in ordinary perception. We do not always know how much time has passed. We do not always know the importance of the moment we are living. We do not always know which small decision will become the turning point of a life. We do not always know whether the place that feels like a closing cave is becoming a place of protection. The young believers saw rock, darkness, and withdrawal. Later generations saw a sign of resurrection and the truth of the promise of Allah. The event did not change because later people understood it. The meaning had been present even when the young believers could not see it. This is one reason the believer says, "Insha Allah," not because the believer has no goals, because the believer knows that reality contains more than the visible moment. The Quran then corrects arguments about details that Allah did not make central. People would dispute their number. People would speculate. The Quran warns against arguing from uncertain information and directs the final knowledge back to Allah. This is another form of surrender. Sometimes we accept that we cannot control the future, but we refuse to accept that we do not possess every fact about the past. We fill empty spaces. We repeat popular names. We identify locations with confidence. We turn possibilities into certainty because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. But faithful scholarship sometimes requires the sentence, "I do not know." It sometimes requires, "The Quran does not tell us." It sometimes requires, "I cannot confirm this from a reliable, authenticated report." That is not weakness. It is honesty before Allah. The person who believes that all knowledge belongs ultimately to Allah does not need to pretend certainty. Insha Allah disciplines statements about the future. Responsible knowledge disciplines statements about the past. Both come from the same humility. Then Surah Al-Kahf moves from young believers with almost nothing to a man surrounded by abundance. Two men are presented. One possesses magnificent gardens. Grapevines grow between palm trees. Crops fill the land. Water flows. The gardens produce without apparent failure. This is not merely a picture of money. It is a picture of systems working. The soil works. The water works. The trees work. The harvest works. The owner looks around and sees repeated success. Repeated success can create a dangerous feeling. The feeling is not simply gratitude. It is predictability. Yesterday the garden produced. Today the garden produces. Therefore, the mind begins to declare that tomorrow the garden must produce. The owner enters his property while wronging himself. He says that he does not think the garden will ever perish. Notice his language. He does not merely enjoy the garden. He makes a claim about its future. He turns present success into imagined permanence. Then his confidence reaches beyond agriculture. He doubts that the final hour will come. Even if he were returned to his Lord, he assumes he would receive something better. Wealth has become evidence in his mind that he deserves permanent favor. The garden is no longer a gift. It has become an argument for his own superiority. His believing companion challenges him. He reminds him of his creation. He declares his own belief in Allah. Then he asks why the owner did not enter the garden, acknowledging what Allah had willed, and that no power exists except through Allah. Masha Allah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. These words do not mean that the garden required no cultivation. The trees needed care, the water needed channels, the crops needed labor. The wealth may have involved planning, management, and years of effort, but effort does not create the laws of life. A farmer does not manufacture sunlight. A business owner does not command every customer. A physician does not create the body's ability to heal. A parent does not own the heart of a child. A teacher does not place understanding inside the mind by force. Human beings use means. Allah creates the conditions through which means become effective. That is what the wealthy owner forgot. He could see the work of his hands. He could no longer see the dependence of his hands. The garden was destroyed. The owner turned his hands in regret over what he had invested. The structures that once supported the vines had collapsed. He discovered too late that possession is not permanence. This does not mean every wealthy person will lose their property. It does not mean every failed business is a punishment. It does not mean a damaged garden proves that its owner lacked faith. The Quran is presenting a particular man whose language exposed arrogance, denial, and false security. The warning is not against having resources. The warning is against allowing resources to replace reliance. A person may have little and still be arrogant. A person may have much and remain grateful. The issue is not the number. The issue is what the number persuades the heart to believe. Does the person say, "I have worked, therefore I deserve complete control"? Or does the person say, "I have worked, and this is what Allah has allowed to grow. I am responsible for using it well, and it can change whenever Allah permits"? Mashallah is not a decorative response to something beautiful. It is the refusal to worship the apparent stability of the beautiful thing. Think about the gardens we build today. They may be literal homes and land. They may be bank accounts. They may be qualifications. They may be audiences, platforms, followers, and reputations. They may be data systems that predict behavior. They may be institutions that have existed for generations. They may be careers that feel secure. They may be bodies that have always been healthy. They may be relationships we assume will never change. Success produces patterns. Patterns produce forecasts. Forecasts can be useful, but a forecast is not a promise from Allah. A projection is not a decree. A trend line is not tomorrow. Good analysis should make us more responsible, not more arrogant. The better we understand a system, the more carefully we should recognize the variables outside our knowledge. Inshallah does not reject evidence. It prevents evidence from becoming an idol. The believer may calculate. The believer may forecast. The believer may invest. The believer may build. The believer may prepare. But the believer does not say, even silently, "Because I understand some of the system, I control the system." The owner of the gardens understood the visible system. He forgot the one upon whom the system depended. There is also a social danger in his confidence. The wealthy man does not keep his arrogance inside his own mind. He compares himself to his companion. He emphasizes that he has more wealth and a stronger group of supporters. Possession becomes status. Status becomes imagined human worth. Then the future becomes another object of competition. I have more now, and I will have more later. This pattern remains familiar. People compare homes, schools, income, children, appearances, opportunities, influence, and access. Then comparison creates a false theology. The person with more begins to feel chosen because of the possession. The person with less begins to feel forgotten because of the absence. But Surah Al-Kahf refuses both conclusions. Present abundance does not prove permanent favor. Present difficulty does not prove abandonment. The young believers were inside a cave and protected. The wealthy man was inside a garden and endangered by his own arrogance. The physical appearance of a situation does not reveal its entire spiritual meaning. You may be in the cave and closer to mercy. You may be in the garden and closer to loss. Only Allah knows the complete reality. This is where we must protect the meaning of Inshallah from two opposite distortions. The first distortion is arrogance. A person makes a plan and speaks as though no power could alter it. The second distortion is irresponsibility. A person says Inshallah while making no serious intention to act. Someone asks, "Will you complete the work?" The person says, "Inshallah," but they have not started, have not scheduled the task, and do not intend to prioritize it. Someone asks, "Will you arrive on time?" The person says, "Inshallah," while already planning to leave late. Someone asks, "Will you keep your promise?" The person uses sacred language to create an escape from accountability. That is not the guidance of Surah Al-Kahf. Inshallah should make a promise more honest, not less meaningful. It means, "I sincerely intend to do this. I will take the responsible steps within my ability. I acknowledge that circumstances beyond my control remain subject to Allah." It does not mean, "I refuse to commit." It does not mean, "I will make no preparation." It does not mean, "Do not hold me responsible for laziness." The young believers acted before entering the unknown. The believing companion advised before the garden collapsed. Prophet Musa traveled in pursuit of knowledge. Dhul-Qarnayn gathered materials, organized workers, and constructed a barrier. Every major narrative contains action. The surah does not teach passive dependence. It teaches active servitude. If this episode is helping you see these events with greater clarity, take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to the Guided Hour, and share it with someone who may benefit. Your support helps more families discover thoughtful and reliable Islamic storytelling. Now, let us return to the journey of Prophet Musa. Prophet Musa was commanded to undertake a journey in search of a servant of Allah who had been given knowledge that Musa did not possess. Authenticated narrations provide context for this journey. Prophet Musa had spoken among the children of Israel and was asked about knowledge. He was then directed toward a servant of Allah known as Al-Qaeda, who possessed knowledge Allah had taught him. Musa did not respond by protecting his status. He traveled. This is one of the clearest signs of sincere scholarship. A proud person wants knowledge that increases rank. A sincere person will travel to discover what they do not know. Musa was already a prophet and messenger, yet he moved in search of learning. His journey shows that possessing great knowledge does not remove the obligation of humility. No human being reaches a point at which learning becomes beneath them. Musa traveled with his attendant toward the meeting place. A fish served as a sign. When they passed the location, the attendant remembered that the fish had taken its way into the sea. They retraced their steps. At the place they had passed, they found Al-Qaeda. Even this beginning contains the pattern of the surah. The travelers moved forward. The sign appeared behind them. The attendant forgot. Musa became tired only after passing the place he had been seeking. Then they returned along their own tracks. Sometimes guidance requires moving backward to the point we overlooked. Sometimes progress is not another mile forward. It is an honest return. The human ego dislikes returning. It interprets turning back as failure. But when the sign is behind you, continuing forward only increases the distance. Inshallah includes the humility to revise a plan. A believer does not worship the original route. A believer seeks the destination that pleases Allah. If new truth requires returning, then returning becomes progress. Musa asks to follow Al-Qaeda so that he may learn from the guidance Allah has taught him. Al-Qaeda warns him that he will not be able to remain patient with events he cannot comprehend. How can a person remain patient with something beyond their knowledge? Musa responds that Al-Qaeda will find him patient, inshallah, and that he will not disobey his instruction. Here the phrase appears directly inside one of the surah's great narratives. Prophet Musa sincerely intends patience. He says, inshallah. Yet during the journey, his patience is tested. This teaches something essential. Saying inshallah does not mean a person will perform perfectly. It does not remove human forgetfulness. It does not turn intention into automatic success. It places the intention beneath the will of Allah while the human being continues to struggle, learn, and seek forgiveness. Musa's words were sincere. His later questions do not prove that the phrase failed. They reveal why the phrase was necessary. He intended patience. He also remained a human being confronting scenes that appeared deeply troubling. Inshallah is not a prediction that you will make no mistakes. It is an admission that even your ability to fulfill a sincere intention requires help from Allah. The two board a vessel. The people operating it carry them without payment. Then Al-Qaeda damages part of the vessel. Musa immediately objects. From the visible evidence, his objection is understandable. People have shown kindness. Their property has been damaged. The damage appears ungrateful and dangerous. Musa asks whether the vessel has been damaged in order to drown its people. Al-Qaeda reminds him that he had warned him about patience. Musa explains that he forgot and asks not to be burdened because of that forgetfulness. The first interruption is connected to forgetting. The command concerning Inshallah had also said that when you forget, remember your Lord. Human beings forget. The answer to forgetfulness is not permanent despair. It is return, remember, correct, continue. Musa is not expelled after the first mistake. He acknowledges it. The journey continues. Later, they encounter a young person, and Al-Qaeda causes his death. Musa objects with even greater force. This part must be handled carefully. The event belonged to an exceptional circumstance known through revelation. It does not give ordinary human beings permission to harm others because they imagine some hidden benefit. No person today can claim the private knowledge given in that event. No one may violate the commands of Allah and excuse themselves by saying that others cannot understand a secret wisdom. Human beings remain bound by the revealed moral law. The story teaches humility about complete knowledge. It does not abolish moral responsibility. Musa saw what any responsible observer would see from the apparent facts. An innocent life appeared to have been taken without justification. He objected. Al-Qaeda again reminded him of the condition. Musa then placed a limit upon himself. If he asked again, the companionship could end. He was learning not only information, he was learning the weight of his own promise. Then they entered a settlement whose people refused them food. Despite that refusal, Al-Qaeda repaired a wall that was about to collapse. Musa suggested that payment could have been requested. This became the point of separation. Only then were the explanations provided. The vessel belonged to poor people working at sea. A ruler was taking sound vessels by force. The temporary damage protected the vessel from confiscation. What looked like destruction was limited damage, preventing total loss. The young person's case involved knowledge and command from Allah concerning what would otherwise have brought severe trial upon believing parents, and Allah would grant them another child better in purity and compassion. The wall belonged to two orphan boys. A treasure belonging to them was beneath it. Their father had been righteous. Allah willed that the wall remain until they reached maturity and could recover what belonged to them. 3 events: a damaged possession, a devastating loss, an unpaid act of repair. Each looked different when seen from one moment. Each looked different when placed within information that Musa did not possess. The story does not ask us to pretend that pain does not hurt. It does not ask us to call every visible wrong secretly good. It does not give us knowledge of the unseen. It teaches us that our immediate interpretation is not the whole reality. That distinction matters. When something painful happens, people sometimes offer explanations they cannot know. They say, "This happened because Allah wanted this exact lesson," or "the hidden reason was certainly that." We should not claim knowledge Allah has not revealed. We may say that Allah is wise. We may say that nothing escapes His knowledge. We may identify guidance directly taught by the Quran. We may hope that hardship becomes a means of growth, purification, protection, or redirection. But we should not invent the specific unseen explanation for another person's suffering. Surah Al-Kahf teaches humility before hidden wisdom. Humility means admitting that we do not know the complete explanation. This is where Insha Allah reaches into the world of knowledge. When Musa said that he would be patient if Allah willed, he acknowledged a limit in his future performance. The journey then exposed a limit in his present knowledge. These limits are connected. We cannot control tomorrow because we do not know everything that tomorrow contains. Our plans are constructed from partial information. We know some facts. We estimate others. We remain unaware of countless conditions. This does not make planning useless. It makes humility rational. Imagine looking at one frame from a long film. Within that frame, a person is removing part of a vessel. You may conclude that he is destroying the livelihood of poor people. A later frame reveals an armed ruler seizing every undamaged vessel. The action has not changed. The available context has changed. Human beings often judge lives through a single frame. A child struggles in one school year. A business loses one contract. A family moves unexpectedly. A person is rejected from one opportunity. A plan is delayed. A relationship changes. We declare the meaning of the entire story from the frame in front of us. It is over. This was wasted. Nothing good can come after this. I know exactly what this means, but we do not possess the remaining frames. Insha Allah is not only something said before an action. It is a discipline that prevents the present moment from claiming authority over the entire future. This discipline is urgently needed in a world of immediate judgment. A short video appears. A sentence is removed from a conversation. A photograph circulates without context. A rumor reaches thousands of people before the subject knows it exists. Everyone is asked to decide immediately. Was the person good or evil? Was the decision wise or corrupt? Was the event success or failure? Was the intention pure or dishonest? Sometimes the evidence is sufficient for a responsible conclusion. Often it is not. Surah Al-Kahf does not teach us to abandon judgment altogether. Prophet Musa did not become indifferent to apparent injustice. The surah teaches us to recognize the boundary between what the evidence supports and what our imagination adds. A believer can say, based on what is established, this action appears wrong. A believer should hesitate before saying, I know the entire heart, intention, future, and hidden meaning. Only Allah possesses complete knowledge. The journey of Musa and Al-Qaeda also protects us from a shallow understanding of patience. Patience is not silence in the face of everything. Patience is not emotional numbness. Patience is not pretending to understand what you do not understand. Musa asked questions because the apparent events carried moral weight. His difficulty was not that he cared too much about justice. His difficulty was that he had agreed to a particular learning condition and could not yet see the knowledge behind the events. His sabr was being trained, and his use of Insha Allah was not an empty promise. It was the honest language of a servant who intended something difficult and knew that the ability to fulfill it came from Allah. The sincere believer may say, Insha Allah, I will be patient, and then struggle. The struggle does not make the statement false, but the statement must lead to effort. When anger rises, the person must pause. When fear rises, the person must return to remembrance. When they fail, they must apologize and correct. When they forget, they must remember. This is lived reliance. The final major narrative brings us to Dhul-Qarnayn. The Quran presents him as a ruler to whom Allah had granted establishment in the earth and means by which to accomplish objectives. The Quran does not require us to identify him with certainty as a particular ruler from another historical tradition. Many identities have been proposed. We should not present disputed identifications as established fact. The Quran directs us toward what he did with power. He traveled. He encountered communities. He judged. He distinguished between wrongdoing and righteousness. He continued using the means Allah had made available to him. Then he reached a people who struggled to communicate. They described the corruption of Ya'juj and Ma'juj and offered payment if he would establish a barrier between them. This is a moment where power could easily become self-promotion. A ruler could exaggerate the danger. He could demand wealth. He could present himself as the only savior. He could build a monument to his own name. Dhul-Qarnayn responds differently. He states that what his Lord has established him in is better. Then he asks the people to assist him with strength. He does not take the offered tribute as the center of the project. He organizes cooperation. Bring the blocks of iron, build between the mountain's sides, apply heat, bring molten metal. The project requires materials, labor, coordination, engineering, and leadership. This is not passive reliance. Dhul-Qarnayn does not sit before the mountain and say, "If Allah wills, a barrier will appear." He uses the means granted to him. Inshallah is present in the worldview of his work, even when the exact phrase is not spoken in that passage. He acts as though ability is a trust from his Lord. When the barrier is complete, the threatening people cannot scale it or pierce it. This is the moment when many leaders would speak about themselves. My intelligence built this. My government protected you. My design will last forever. My strength solved the problem. Dhul-Qarnayn says that this is a mercy from his Lord. Then he immediately acknowledges that when the promise of his Lord arrives, the barrier will be leveled. The promise of his Lord is true. This is leadership purified by belief in Allah's will. He does not deny the achievement. He does not pretend that no human effort occurred. He does not hide the materials or the labor. He does not describe planning as unnecessary. He places the achievement within its true boundaries. The barrier is real. The protection is real. The leadership is real. The mercy of Allah is greater than all of them, and the barrier is temporary. Even the strongest human construction exists inside time. The mountains will not remain forever. The iron will not remain forever. The political order will not remain forever. The leader will not remain forever. The danger itself will not remain outside the decree of Allah. Human power is not false, it is limited. This gives us a complete picture of responsible reliance. The young believers use the means available to preserve their faith. The believing owner advised gratitude and humility in wealth. Prophet Musa traveled and learned while recognizing his dependence upon Allah for patience. Dhul-Qarnayn organized people and materials while attributing success to the mercy of his Lord. None of them treated reliance as inactivity. The person who truly believes in Inshallah should become more responsible, not less. Why? Because the person knows that ability is a trust, time is a trust, knowledge is a trust, influence is a trust, wealth is a trust. A person cannot guarantee the outcome, but they can answer for how they use the means placed in their hands. Imagine two leaders. The first believes completely in personal control. When the project succeeds, the leader takes all credit. When the project fails, the leader blames everyone else. The second leader plans carefully, listens to expertise, prepares for risk, communicates honestly, and acknowledges uncertainty. When success comes, the second leader remains grateful. When failure comes, the second leader reviews the decisions without believing that personal worth has been destroyed. Which leader is more stable? Which leader is safer for others? Which leader is more likely to learn? Belief in the will of Allah does not weaken competent leadership. It protects leadership from worshipping itself. The same applies inside a family. Parents must plan. They choose schools. They establish routines. They teach values. They protect children. They save money. They seek medical care. They set boundaries. They make dua. Yet children are not projects whose outcomes can be guaranteed. A parent may provide guidance and still face unexpected difficulty. A parent may make mistakes and later correct them. A child may take a path no one predicted. Saying Inshallah reminds the parent that responsibility is real, but ownership is not. The parent is responsible to teach. Allah guides hearts. The parent is responsible to love. The parent cannot remove every trial. The parent is responsible to protect. The parent cannot construct a barrier around every future pain. This understanding can produce humility without surrender. It can produce seriousness without panic. The same applies to personal change. A person says, "Inshallah, I will stop this harmful habit." Then they must identify the triggers, they must change the environment, they may need professional help, they must seek forgiveness when they fall. They must return after failure. A person says, "Inshallah, I will learn the Quran." Then they must open it, they must create a schedule, they must seek qualified instruction, they must repeat, they must continue when progress feels slow. A person says, "Inshallah, I will repair this relationship." Then they must speak honestly, they must listen, they must apologize where responsible, they must respect boundaries, they must accept that reconciliation requires another person's decision as well. The phrase does not complete the work, it places the work in the correct relationship with Allah. We can now see the thread moving through Surah Al-Kahf. The questioners expect an answer tomorrow. The answer waits upon revelation. The young believers enter a cave seeking refuge. Their single decision becomes a sign across generations. The wealthy owner looks at a thriving garden and assumes it will never disappear. The garden collapses. Prophet Musa promises patience, inshallah. The journey reveals the difference between sincere intention and perfect performance. Dhul-Qarnayn builds a barrier of extraordinary strength. He declares that it is mercy from his Lord and that it will one day be leveled. Tomorrow, safety, wealth, knowledge, power, every one of them is placed beneath the will of Allah. This does not mean the surah has only one message. It means the phrase inshallah expresses a reality that helps connect its major movements. The person protected from the trials described in this surah is not merely the person who repeats certain words. It is the person whose understanding of reality has changed. An authentic hadith states that whoever memorizes the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will be protected from the Dajjal. The Dajjal represents an immense trial of deception. He will present appearances that challenge perception and faith. Surah Al-Kahf trains the believer not to worship appearances. A cave can contain protection. A garden can contain danger. Damage to a vessel can preserve it. A repaired wall can conceal mercy for orphans. A powerful barrier can still be temporary. The visible surface is not the complete reality. Allah alone knows the unseen. This does not mean the believer becomes suspicious of everything. It means the believer does not allow appearances to replace revelation. We use our eyes, we use reason. We examine evidence, but we do not imagine that the visible world contains no reality beyond what we currently understand. There is one more danger we should address. Some people speak of the power of inshallah as though the phrase were a mechanism for controlling outcomes. Say the words, and the plan must happen. Say the words, and failure becomes impossible. Say the words, and the future bends toward your desire. That is not what the phrase means. Inshallah is not a command directed at Allah. It is surrender directed into the human heart. It does not mean that Allah must fulfill what we want. It means that what we want can occur only if Allah wills it. The power is not inside a sound formed by the tongue. All power belongs to Allah. The phrase is powerful because it tells the truth about us. We are servants, we intend, we act, we ask, we hope. We do not command the Lord of the worlds. This truth can bring peace. Much anxiety comes from trying to carry a weight human beings were never created to carry. The weight of guaranteeing every outcome. The weight of ensuring that no child ever struggles. The weight of making every investment succeed. The weight of preventing every illness. The weight of knowing every hidden motive. The weight of understanding every painful event immediately. The weight of building something that can never fall. You were not given that authority. You were given responsibility. Responsibility asks, what is the right action available to me? The illusion of control asks, how can I guarantee everything that follows? The first question creates faithful action. The second can create paralysis, arrogance, or despair. Inshallah releases the believer from false divinity. You do not need to be the Lord of tomorrow. You need to be a faithful servant today. That does not make loss easy. The owner of the gardens experienced regret. Musa found the journey difficult. The young believers faced a society hostile to their faith. The people requesting the barrier faced real danger. Belief in the will of Allah does not remove human emotion. It gives emotion a direction. Fear becomes a reason to seek refuge. Confusion becomes a reason to pursue knowledge. Wealth becomes a reason for gratitude. Power becomes a reason for service. Failure becomes a reason for review and return. Forgetfulness becomes a reason to remember. This is why the correction in verses 23 and 24 does not end with the phrase, "if Allah wills." It continues, "When you forget, remember your Lord." Ask to be guided toward what is nearer to right guidance. The future is not only something to surrender, it is something for which we seek guidance. A believer does not merely say, "Whatever happens will happen." A believer asks, "My Lord, guide me toward what is more right." That is not fatalism. It is a relationship with Allah. Perhaps you are planning something now, a move, a marriage, a new school, a business, a medical decision, a difficult conversation, a journey, a personal change. Make the plan, gather reliable information, consult people of knowledge, prepare the resources. Consider the risks, keep your promises honestly, then say Insha'Allah with awareness. Say it as a confession that your knowledge is partial. Say it as a confession that your strength is borrowed. Say it as a confession that tomorrow is a gift, not a possession. Say it while intending to work. Say it while ready to revise. Say it while trusting that a changed path is not outside the knowledge of Allah. Say it while remembering that success is not always the outcome you originally imagined. The young believers may have imagined survival in the form of remaining awake and hidden. Allah protected them through sleep. The believing companion may have appeared poorer than the garden owner. His understanding was the greater possession. Musa traveled seeking answers and returned with a lesson about the boundaries of human knowledge. Dhul-Qarnayn built a barrier while knowing it would not stand forever. Their stories do not teach us to abandon the world. They teach us to move through the world without confusing the temporary with the eternal. At the end of Surah Al-Kahf, the listener is brought toward the final future, the gathering, the record of deeds, the reality that human beings will stand before their Lord. The surah that corrected a statement about tomorrow ends by correcting our understanding of the greatest tomorrow. Many people plan carefully for next week and carelessly for the meeting with Allah. They prepare for careers lasting decades and neglect a life that does not end. They build names they hope people will remember and forget the one before whom every secret will become known. The final verses direct the person who hopes to meet their Lord toward righteous action and sincere worship. Once again, belief does not cancel action. Hope in the meeting with Allah must produce righteous deeds. Reliance must produce sincerity. The future belongs to Allah. Your preparation belongs to your responsibility. So is Surah Al-Kahf all about Insha'Allah, not in the sense that every verse discusses the phrase. The surah is richer and wider than one expression, but Insha'Allah may be one of the clearest doors through which we understand its unified guidance. The cave teaches that safety takes forms we cannot predict. The gardens teach that abundance does not own its next season. The journey of Musa teaches that sincere intention and human knowledge remain incomplete. The barrier teaches that responsible power must acknowledge its Lord and its limit. Together, they teach us to reject four illusions. I control my security. I control my possessions. I understand the whole reality. My power will remain. Insha'Allah breaks each illusion, not by making us weak, by returning us to the truth. Tomorrow is real, but it is not yours. Your intention matters. Your effort matters. Your honesty matters. Your preparation matters. Your reliance matters. Then the door of tomorrow opens only by the permission of Allah. Perhaps the path will look exactly as you expected. Perhaps it will lead into a cave. Perhaps a garden will disappear. Perhaps you will need to retrace your steps. Perhaps the strongest barrier you build will serve its purpose and then return to the earth. Whatever comes, the servant does not face the future alone. The servant plans with humility, acts with responsibility, returns after forgetfulness, learns after mistakes, and says with a heart that understands what the tongue is declaring, Inshallah. You have been listening to The Guided Hour, where every journey carries a story and every story carries guidance. Until our next journey, may Allah increase us in beneficial knowledge and guide us toward what is true.